Hey everybody, we're back again for another off-season recap video, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Edmonton Oilers. So Edmonton had a very good regular season last year, but had a very disappointing showing in the postseason, losing to the 12 seed Blackhawks in the qualifying round, and obviously something that they want to improve upon this year and go much deeper into the playoffs. So before we fully get into their offseason, I just ask that you please subscribe if you are new. Hit that thumbs up button if you haven't yet. Both of those things help out a lot and are greatly appreciated. But let's get into it here. Edmonton has been pretty active this offseason, and overall, I have to say, I do like a lot of what they've done this offseason. I think they've made a lot of very good moves, and overall, Ken Holland is doing a pretty good job with this team, to say the least. So let's take a look at some of their moves here. And what they've done this offseason. Their biggest addition is certainly Tyson Barry coming in from the Toronto Maple Leafs. And Barry didn't have a great year last year in Toronto, but he's a guy that I think fits a lot better in the Western Conference. And just his style of game, I think, really will hopefully gel well with the Edmonton Oilers, and just, you know, his skating ability, the stretch passes, and the fast style of game that the Oilers like to play. He certainly has some issues in the defensive zone, but I think the Oilers are a team that are going to be able to cover that a little bit because of the pace of play, and just, you know, he's going to be moving that puck so quickly that will really play to Barry's strengths a lot. And I think he has a chance to have a really big year with Edmonton, and certainly will help their power play, which was already phenomenal. They also brought in Kyle Turris on an absolute steal of a contract, under $2 million per season for a guy with 50-point potential. He'll probably be their third-line center. Things did not go well for Kyle Turris with the Nashville Predators, but man, I think he can really turn things around with the Oilers. A lot of the pressure is off of him. He doesn't have to play a top six role. I think it's much more likely he plays on their third line, and he could be a huge depth scoring addition to this team that I think could have a big year. And they also have brought in Dominic Cahoon, another really good depth scorer coming in. He's still a younger player. Someone who can really bring in some secondary scoring, and I think can have a big season. As far as subtractions go, Riley Sheahan is gone. He was their third-line center. He did not bring a whole lot to the table, so they obviously let him go. Andreas Athanasiou came in at the deadline from the Red Wings, really didn't do a whole lot. He struggled. He's a free agent. He's gone. Matt Benning, depth defenseman, gone to the Nashville Predators. And Marcus Granlund, who really has struggled over the past couple of seasons, is out the door as well. So no real major losses. Some really nice additions to this lineup. And overall, I think the Oilers have had a very good offseason. So for this one, I've brought in a fellow YouTuber who I've actually kind of recently just found, but really wanted to get him on the channel. He does a phenomenal job covering all of hockey, but he is an Oilers fan as his number one team, so I wanted to bring him in. And this is Payton on the radio. So Payton, take it away.
Hello everyone from Off the Wall Hockey. My name is Payton, or Payton on the radio. Just before we get into talking about the Edmonton Oilers, I'd like to just say thank you to John for letting me on the show and letting me talk about my favorite team of all time, the Edmonton Oilers, as they have just had an absolute crazy offseason. They had a little bit of a rough playoffs, losing to the Chicago Blackhawks in the qualifying round. And out of that, we've seen that our weakest point was our 5-on-5. We couldn't really transition out of the zone, and I know a lot of Oilers fans will say that was just bad defense. Yes, we had some bad defense. We had some really bad points, but the problem was we could get the puck off their sticks in Chicago. We could play really good defensively. Our problem was we were never able to move that puck up the zone. We were dominating shots almost every game throughout the entire regular season. So 5-on-5 was a pivotal point where we needed to improve upon, which we did. We got Kyle Turris on a $1.65 million deal for our third-line centerman, which we desperately needed. Riley Sheahan was nowhere near third-line centerman, and for the amount of money he was demanding, I'd rather take Kyle Turris any day of the week over Riley Sheahan. Todd Taurus, he's not that well defensively, but he's awesome offensively. But that's why you have somebody like Josh Archibald or somebody to go alongside of them to play that more of defensive game. Also, Jesse Puljujarvi. 2-year deal, $1.175 million deal, was an absolute steal from Jesse Puljujarvi as well. I thought we were only going to get him to a 1-year deal, but we got him to a 2-year deal, which gives us more time to see how worthy Jesse Puljujarvi is, and I'm hoping he will explode. He's been doing really well in the Liga. I'm hoping that translates good into the NHL, but I do believe Puljujarvi will get off to a rough start, but once he kind of starts transitioning into the Tippett game, I think Puljujarvi will really start excelling. We also got Dominic Kahun, Leon Draisaitl's best friend, which was an absolute steal of a deal. It was absolute stellar. I loved it. And then also we got Tyler Ennis back on a $1 million deal, which once again, another steal there. Tyler Ennis is just, he has such great heart. I mean, he does deal with a lot of injuries, and that's going to be the biggest thing from Tyler Ennis, but that's why we're so deep. That's why we also got Alan Kwine, which me and Perlo, you should go check him out as well. We were talking about him and how great of just an AHL player he is, and especially when he jumps into the NHL. But the biggest move the Edmonton Oilers made was picking up Tyson Barry on a $3.75 million deal. It was an absolute steal of a deal. Tyson Berry is going to be the icing on the cake for our power play. We had one of the best power plays in the league last year. You're about to see the power play take another step up with Tyson Barry. It's going to be amazing. I'm really excited to see how well the defensive core will play, especially with Tyson Barry in that core. I think it's going to be a little bit of a different transition game. I think we're going to really push that offense. I know a lot of people are really afraid about our defense, but I think our defense will just be perfectly fine the way that it is. We had a lot of good pickups. Mike Smith was a bit of a rough one for $1.5 million for the year. That's a rough one, but overall, Ken Holland had a great free agency with the Edmonton Oilers with big names like Barry, Taurus, Puljujarvi, Kahun, Ennis, so many under $8 million. It was absolutely amazing. Thank you, John, for having me on the show. See you guys.
So first and foremost, I want to give a huge thank you to Payton for coming on the channel and doing this video with me. It was great to have him on. His channel, Payton on the Radio, will be linked in the description as always. He does great NHL content, so please check him out, guys, and consider subscribing. And overall, I really have to agree with a lot of what Payton said. I was a big fan of the Oilers offseason this year. Now, there is one area of concern that they did not address that I really hoped that they would, and that was goaltending. They really didn't make any changes at the goaltender position. They brought back Mike Smith for another year, and it's going to be the tandem of Smith and Koskinen again this year. And I just don't trust that tandem to be able to take this team far in the playoffs. I just don't. I think that was an area that they needed to upgrade, and they didn't, so that is a little worrisome heading into this year. I look at both of those guys as solid backup goaltenders, but I don't look at either of them as starters. And right now, I don't think the Edmonton Oilers really have a true starting goaltender. Even if they split the season, they might be fine in the regular season with those two, but I just don't see those two taking them deep in the playoffs. And we saw last year them kind of get lit up by Chicago, particularly Mike Smith, looked atrocious. So that's an area I really wish that they would have addressed, but they're just going at it again with a Smith-Koskinen tandem again this year. We'll see how that works out. Other than that, though, I think, they addressed the areas they needed to. I mean, bring in Tyson Barry. He's going to bring some more offense from the back end, bring a good stretch game to it, speed game to their team. And I like that move. And another area that I really think they needed to address was secondary scoring. And they did. Secondary scoring's been an issue for the past number of years for the Oilers. They're a team that rely heavily on McDavid and Draisaitl, and all the offense seems to go through those two guys, and they really don't have much else. But now with Taurus coming in, with Kahun, with Ennis sticking around, with Jesse Puljujarvi re-signed and hopefully coming back from Europe, now they've got a much better secondary scoring unit around McDavid and Draisaitl, and all the pressure won't be on those two. And I think they're going to be a much more well-rounded offensive team this coming season, and I think that bodes really, really well for the Edmonton Oilers. So again, I think I like the Barry addition. I think they really addressed the secondary scoring issue. The only thing I wish they would have done other than what they did do was address goaltending, but they're going to go at it again with Koskinen and Smith, and we'll see how that works out. Maybe they make an in-season trade for a goaltender or something like that. That remains to be seen, but overall, this Edmonton team should definitely make the playoffs. Again, how deep they can go, I think, is largely going to depend on how their goaltending is and how those guys perform. Because as we know in the NHL playoffs, you're not going anywhere without great goaltending. Goaltending is king of the postseason in the NHL. And Edmonton kind of learned that the hard way last year. So we'll see how it goes, but this team certainly should be in the postseason. And how deep they're able to go remains to be seen. But that's my opinion on the Oilers offseason. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon merchandise store and donation link are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.